Hey, what's going on, everybody? How you doing? I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World and the Black Business School. I was thinking about something that my students always ask me about. My students always ask me about how to get money to start a business. Starting a business, when I hear about people that want to start, the biggest problem that people run into most of the time is they don't have the money that they need. They're looking to raise capital, and the capital is just simply not available. That's a persistent problem. Most people I know that try to get bank loans, they don't get any loans. They try to go and they try to borrow the money. They can't borrow from the bank. They can't borrow from their relatives. They may not have a lot of cash on hand. So this creates a very serious problem. Now, the interesting thing about this problem with getting access to money that you need to start a business, it's there's sort of the short-term solution and there's a long-term solution. There's and there's also the other solution where you actually don't really need a lot of money to start a business. If you spend time studying how to start a business, then you'll find that there are ways to get around spending money a lot of times, because really what you're looking for is value. So for example, let's say that you have a company that starts that's a startup, and they go and they pay $500,000 a year in salaries, and they spend money on a building, they spend money on equipment. Well, there are probably ways to get a lot of that same labor, a lot of that same equipment, a lot of that same space, without spending as much money as they spent. Maybe you get a different kind of space, or people work from home, or you get people to come and work for you kind of on credit, on an IOU thing, or in exchange for equity. So there's a lot of ways to kind of get around that. When I started my business, I didn't really have a ton of money. I had the money that I had saved up in my retirement account. And of course, I couldn't really use all of that because that was my retirement money. But at the same time, what I found was that that became almost like my little bank. And so basically, because I sort of built up my own bank, I was then able to kind of make some strategic moves when it came to the business. Now, the thing I was thinking about real quick, and I don't have a lot of time to talk about this, but I wanted to share this with you a little bit. I was talking to my students about this in the Black Wealth Bootcamp yesterday. The, when you talk about raising capital for a business, there is that short-term, issue. Okay, how do I get that money tomorrow? How do I get that money tomorrow? And that's something that we can talk about. We talk about that in our entrepreneurship program, things like that. There are a lot of different ways to kind of work around some of that. Sometimes you have to just start where you are too. You may want to get all the money you need to start a big business, but you may have to take the money you've got and start something very small. That's what I had to do, and I had to do sort of flips and keep flipping to make my business grow. But here's the other thing. The question you have to really sort of ask yourself is, how did I get to the point where I need to start a business and I don't have any money to start a business? How did this happen? Why was there no asset accumulation that occurred before the fact to allow me to go ahead and make this move? Well, part of it, you have to kind of look at yourself and sort of say, okay, man, I should have been saving. Instead of saving, I was throwing my money away, or I should have been making investments and strategic moves, but instead I didn't do that. But then also there's an intergenerational play in this. There's a family issue here. Really ideally, if you're trying to be economically strong, family members would have, if they have children, you start making investments for your children so that they then have capital that allows them to make certain financial moves. And so one of the concepts I came up with when I was talking to my students the other day is, the idea of the family bank. The family bank, in my opinion, is something I thought of. I sort of laid out this construct just for black people, because that's all I teach black people. That's all I'm teaching right now anyway. And basically, this construct of the family bank is a way to kind of help make sure that maybe if you can't get around the limitations on capital because you can't get a bank loan, you make sure your children and grandchildren don't have the same problem. You see, here's the thing about banks. Look, banks, most of the time, banks don't loan you money unless you have A, really good credit, which a lot of people don't have, and or B, a lot of assets and collateral. They're not going to loan you money just because you have a great business idea. That just doesn't usually happen. I'm sorry, it doesn't happen most of the time. Sometimes people get lucky, but those stories are few and far between. If you start a business tomorrow and you just say, oh, I got my LLC now and I got this great idea, and you go to the bank and you give them your paperwork and say, okay, give me $100,000. They're gonna be like, "Yeah, out of your damn mind. We're not giving you anything. Take your crazy butt home." And so a lot of people get discouraged because of that. And then what also happens is you go to your relatives; they don't have the money to lend you. So what I would define that to mean is that a lot of our black entrepreneurs are working with what I call just bad economic soil, just unfertile soil. You don't have the resources that you need. The banks won't give you the money that you need. You may not have the expertise that you need, and you don't have the support that you need, from family members, etc. Not just financially, but morally, the moral support. You have a lot of people that tell you that you're crazy for starting a business. Oh, you're a dirty vulture capitalist if you're trying to start a business. There's a lot of really bad misconceptions about black business owners that really stagnates our community, really keeps us from advancing economically. So what I have proposed to my students is, as I've laid out the concept of the family bank. Basically, what I have helped my students to understand, this is so important. I hope you will listen to me when I say this. If you're not going to listen, if you think I'm crazy, then please turn off the video. You can go do something else. Go watch Empire or Basketball Wives or whatever it is people do when they're not trying to build something. I don't do that stuff. But if you really are looking for a solution, here's a solution I came up with just for you. The concept of the family bank is very basic. It really basically means doing things right now on a consistent basis, slowly but surely, such that in about 20 or 30 years, you can accumulate enough capital to allow your family to then have its own source of capital when business opportunities arise. You see, because what happens is, you see an idea, you see an opportunity, and it's almost like an animal in the or a hunter in the woods that sees an animal that he can eat, and he says, oh my gosh, if there's a deer, I can go get the deer, and he doesn't have a weapon, he doesn't have a spear, he doesn't have a gun, he doesn't have a bow and arrow, he has nothing, so the food just kind of runs by. So a lot of times our businesses are the same way in our community. We see a great opportunity and we're like, oh man, if I just had $5,000, oh, I could flip that into 30 grand overnight. Have you ever had that feeling? Have you ever gone through that where you just know you've got a killer idea and the money's right there saying, come get me, and you can't make a move because you don't even have the basic capital necessary to even make a tiny investment to get that thing going. So why would you put your children through the same thing? Why do you want your grandchildren to go through that same misery? Because if you're not acting now, then they're going to have the same problem you have. They're going to have the same problem in the year 2057 that you're having in 2017. Because here's the secret about capital. Here's the secret about banks. All a bank really is a pile of resources that can be utilized to make strategic investments, and is also positioned so it will preserve itself and continue to grow over time. So banks, what they do, how do banks work? Banks will take up a bunch of deposits. They have a pile of money, and they do things with the money. They make investments, they make loans. Either way, whatever they're doing, they're getting interest because the interest is giving them a return on the money that they're putting out there. They're putting their money in the street. As my old friend Dame Dash used to say, always said, he's not my old friend, he's my friend. But he would say that they're putting money in the street. Your money's working for you. Your money's bringing back. Your dollar bills are fertile. They're giving birth to baby dollar bills because you're engaged in the act of what we call capital preservation. You're protecting your money and you're growing your money. I wish every professional athlete understood this because some of them don't, and it's very, very sad because they give their money away. So basically, the concept of the family bank is figuring out how, through long-term consistent effort, your family can accumulate assets and grow those assets and protect those assets in such a way that those resources allow you to do two things. One, to protect your family, and two, to give your family a chance to grow, to protect the territory you have at home and to conquer new territory. So what that means is that because you've built up your family bank over a 20 or 30 year period, you are then able to give jobs to your children and grandchildren. If they want to get a job, come and working for the family, they can do that. And then two, you can make strategic investments. So maybe if your child or grandchild comes to you and they say they want to work on something, but they don't want to work for you, you can say, well, what are you interested in? Like my daughter might come and say, well, I'm interested in doing hair and stuff like that. So because we have a family bank, I can then say, okay, well, tell me about your idea. Give me a proposal, and dad will be your first investor. And we're going to go, guess what? We're going to go into the hair and beauty industry, into that business now, because that's what you're interested in. So I'm going to help you buy and own your job and eventually buy and own a business. And that comes from having a family bank. A bank is not just a pile of money. The family bank is a pile of resources. You see, most people, the biggest mistake people make when they think about wealth is they think that wealth usually has to do with money. That's a huge mistake. Most wealth is not financial. So ultimately, when you think about the family bank, all it is a bunch of stuff that you have that allows you to take care of yourself and to make strategic investments. So even when you are a person that has 40 hours a week of free time because you lost your job, well, then that's part of your wealth. That's your bank. You've got a bank of time that can be invested in doing anything that you want. And because we don't see the value in that time, we throw it away a lot of times. We'll throw it away by, watching dumb shows on TV or sitting around doing nothing, right? Because we don't think our time has value unless a white man comes along and pays for it, right? So ultimately, the resources can be time, it could be trucks, it could be buildings. If there's a farmer, his resources might consist of cows and pigs and chickens and land. And so a lot of people that have the best banks in the world do not have any money. Sometimes you can have a great bank, a great family bank, and have no money because all you have to do is have a pile of resources that sustains you. So basically, I put together this whole process, this whole structure, this whole sort of curriculum that I want to try to hopefully convince you to consider taking a look at this. This is something that I put together to show families how to build a family bank. It would take about 20 to 30 years to do it, but if you did it consistently and you did it in a stable, structured way, in 20 to 30 years, your family would have about based on history. Let's say that if they'd done this in the past, because I am very cautious about predicting the stock market because the theory says nobody can predict what the market's going to do. We can only talk about what the market has done. So basically, if somebody had done this, say in 1982, and said, by the 2000s, our family's not going to struggle anymore, and they were very consistent, made consistent investments, say in the stock market, then their family bank would be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then in addition to that, you don't just have the accumulation of financial assets, you're also accumulating knowledge all the way through. You're having family board meetings, you're sitting together and you're engaging in financial literacy. Maybe as a family, I encourage my students to watch some Dr. Boyce videos. I say, hey, put some, maybe every Sunday, grab one of my videos, put it on the TV, and you and your family can watch the video. I guarantee you that they're not going to walk away the same person after they saw me lecture on something or gone through some PowerPoints and broken some, structure down, etc. And so ultimately, what happens is you then gain the holy grail of wealth. You see, if you want to know the secret that what self-made millionaires know, that wealthy people kind of understand when it comes to wealth and capital, is they typically have at least a couple of things. They have money to work with, and they have a lot of knowledge on what to do with that money. You can't have one or the other, without the other sort of suffering. For example, if I know a lot about how to invest, but I have no money to invest with, then I'm gonna kind of be like a race car driver without a car. It doesn't matter how good I can drive. I'm only driving in my mind. But if I also am a person who has the best race car in the world and I don't know how to drive, then I'm still going to lose races. I'm never going to win. Or I'm like a basketball coach who's got the best players in the world, but he doesn't know how to coach the players, so he doesn't win any games. So at the end of the day, by engaging in this very consistent process of developing your own family bank, then what happens is that with your grandchildren, what you're then able to do is the grandchild comes along and says, Pop, I have a great business idea. Can I get some help? So you say, okay, well, we're gonna, show me your proposal. We'll go into the family trust and we'll make an investment of $5,000 in exchange for 20% ownership of, of the business. So that way you're building your wealth and you're gonna do great. But then the family business is going to gain as well, because the thing about capital and money is capital. Money is not something that you trick off in the strip club. It's not something that you're supposed to spend on shoes. It's not something you give away at restaurants. Capital is meant to be preserved and it's meant to be grown. So what we teach in this curriculum, I'm very excited about it. That's why I'm telling you guys about it. We teach in the curriculum how to build the capital and then how to have the intelligence to preserve the capital and to grow the capital. So think of it like a city where you got your soldiers protecting the city itself, but you also sending some soldiers out maybe to conquer some new territory. Like, hey, that land looks like it's available, so let's see if we can go expand the kingdom a little bit. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, as long as you're doing it ethically and you're not hurting anybody, you can go make strategic investments and build your family empire. And then what's beautiful about it is that you get the pride and dignity that comes with owning, with what I call economic sovereignty. When you have that sovereignty doesn't mean that you're controlling the world. Sovereignty means that you're controlling your world. You see, it's one thing if I can't control other people's worlds. I'm not trying to do that. I don't care about that. But it's another thing when I feel like somebody else is controlling my world. That's it. That's a place that's devoid of dignity. It's a place that zaps you of your happiness. It's a place that makes you feel like you're less than. It's a place that breeds what I call deficit thinking. And so ultimately, I think if you want to get away from deficit thinking, you build that pile of capital, that endowment. A lot of people use the family bank model. Actually, they just don't call it that. Universities, corporations, institutes, all of them operate on an endowment, which is basically a big pile of resources that they have in order to make strategic moves. So if your family wants to be able to make strategic moves and to have its sovereignty, you must build a family bank. Now here's the beautiful part. The thing about money is that money grows like vegetables grow. Money grows the way an animal grows. Money grows the way a tree grows. So if you want to grow a tree, you need seeds and you need time, and you have to have a consistent strategy to grow that tree. All I have to do is if you want to have a tree in your backyard, I give you the seeds. You got to plant the seeds and you got to water the tree every day so that it will grow. Well, if you give it enough time, then you're going to have a gigantic tree in your backyard. So money's the same way. If you do things like the $5 a day investment plan, which we teach our students in the Black Wealth Bootcamp, then you can basically make consistent investments as a family, have regular family meetings, and engage in financial literacy, so that by the time the assets start to accumulate and grow into something, you'll already have a million different ideas on how to utilize that money and make it grow into more money. And so that's kind of one of the solutions that's out there. It's something that's not prevalent in our community. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of people in our community that sort of think about money in terms of capital, think about it, as far as investing. We don't think about it in terms of, all the possibilities that exist. We sometimes get stuck only focusing on the limitations. But I can tell you that mathematically speaking, anybody, if I had a choice between predicting the economic outcomes of a poor person who had lots of financial literacy and lots of financial discipline versus a wealthy person who had no discipline at all, within a generation or two, they would actually trade places within 1 to 2 generations, because most studies show that 70% of all wealthy families lose all their wealth in 1 generation. 90% of wealthy families lose their wealth within 2 generations. So you want to kind of just think about that as you move forward. Now, if you want to see the plan on how to get the family bank or how to set it up, I actually put it in with the curriculum with the Black Stock Market Program. You can actually go to theblackstockmarketprogram.com. That's theblackstockmarketprogram.com, or you can actually take a look by joining the Black Wealth Bootcamp, which is at theblackwealthbootcamp.com. That's theblackwealthbootcamp.com. And also, if you go to my financial literacy store, you can also take a look. It doesn't cost a whole lot to get it. I can't remember what price they put on it, but it doesn't cost you more than it would cost you to go to Applebee's or something. The difference is, though, it'll change your family for the next 3 generations. I guarantee you, if your family does this, it'll change your family for the next 100 years. I'm not kidding. I'm not pretending. This is absolutely true. So I think if you go to the Dr. Boyce Watkins store.com, I think that's where everything is. So you can go in there and just search for the word bank, and you'll find the downloadable curriculum on how to set up a family bank. So you can actually go to one of those 3 places. Everybody who's in the boot camp and the stock market program gets it for free. But if you just want the curriculum and you don't want anything else, you can go to the Dr. Boyce Watkins store.com. That's the drboycewatkinsstore.com, and you can kind of take a look at that. And there's a lot of stuff in there that will help you in your wealth building journey. These are great low cost tools that'll kind of get you started. And basically the goal is wherever you get the information, don't believe the information is not out there. Don't believe that the possibilities don't exist. Never get caught thinking that way, because it never helps you to believe that something's not possible. So just go give it a try and see what happens. And if you're not happy with it, let me know, and I'll give you other stuff to make up for it, because I just share these things because I want you guys to have an option that will allow you to move forward. I can't give everything away for free because we don't accept corporate sponsorship. We don't accept donations or government funding. So we charge just a little bit so that we can actually pay our bills and all that stuff. But beyond that, though, you'll get something that far exceeds any value that the thing costs. So feel free to check it out. You can go to the Dr. Boyce Watkins store. .com. That's and it's got a lot of other stuff in there too. Also, theblackwealthbootcamp.com, which is behind my head, theblackwealthbootcamp.com. Also, you can go to theblackstockmarketprogram.com. All right, so I'm about to go, guys. I know that's a lot of URLs. People told me I should collapse my URLs, but it's just I'm just doing it in the way that feels natural. So take care, guys, and I love you, and have an awesome night. And I'm sorry, Louisiana girl. I'll be back a little bit later. I just realized I spend too much time online sometimes, so I gotta actually go do some work. So take care, and I love you all, and I hope you have an awesome day. I'll talk to you soon.